This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic. What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is May 26, 2022. Jonathan Osborne here. As always, I am joined by my co-host, Luke Sylvia. Luke, what's going on, bro?
We're only 28 days away, 27, 28 days, something like that away. These are going to be the longest days of my life. And I'm moving in there, and that usually makes life go faster. But I think with like just the anticipation for the the draft, as well as just getting to Florida for me as well, this might drag by a little bit for me.
Yeah, so I've been off work now for the last month after we had the little guy. So I go back to work tomorrow.
You ready
but
for
the
that?
last what's that?
You said you're ready for that?
I am ready for that. And the reason is like the last few days I've just found myself like sitting around watching more highlight videos, reading Twitter, and it's just like, man, this is taking forever. I still don't know who we should pick or who we're going to pick or whatever else is going on. So yeah, it is completely dragging on. I'm hoping that getting back to work is going to speed up the days a little bit and make it feel like it's not so long in between now and the draft lottery. But in between now and the draft lottery, folks, you're going to see probably a rumor a day that the Magic are leaning towards taking this guy. The Magic really love this guy. This team really loves this guy. One thing that I know for certain in life, and I don't know a lot, but I do know this. Jeff Weltman, John Hammond, Matt Lloyd, all those guys in the front office, they leak nothing. They leak nothing. You're not going to know for sure what the Magic are going to do until we hear the dun, 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 and then Adam Silver walks to the podium. Now, it's convenient for a lot of these guys who are reporting that the Magic are leaning one way or the other because, by all accounts, it's a three-player draft, so regardless of who you say, you have roughly like a 33% chance, 50% chance, depending if you think it's just Chet and Jabari, of ending up looking right at the end, which is essentially what they want, and they want clicks right now. But nobody knows what this team is going to do. Stop wasting your time reading that stuff or getting excited about stuff. It means absolutely nothing, and things can change between now and then. We don't even know if the front office has worked out any of these guys yet. I'm waiting for the photo of Jabari Smith Jr. in line at Chipotle, downtown Orlando, or Chet, was walking around Amway Center and somebody got a picture with him or something like that. That's the stuff that I'm waiting for that's going to get me excited. But all this other stuff of the Magic are leaning this way or they're in love with this guy, don't listen to any of that. I'm doing you a favor by telling you, just wait until the draft. Be miserable, like the rest of us, of living in uncertainty for the next 28 days, but don't listen to that stuff. Anything to add, Luke? That's pretty good. We kind of covered that.
I think you really you got to the point. And the point is, just close your ears because nobody knows anything.
Don't even listen to us.
Right, yeah, just don't ever, never.
Yeah. All right. One other thing that came out today, the results of, the NBA awards and, first team, all defensive team, rookie of the year, and also the rookie team voting came out. And we knew when Franz Wagner was voted to the first team and the results came out, it was obvious that there were some folks that didn't have him on the first team. And then it became obvious that someone didn't have him on one of the teams at all. And now we know that is, I can't even say his name, Dave McMenamin, or what I'm calling Dave McMinimum, because he put forth the minimum effort in turning in the voting ballot. He had freaking Austin Reeves of the Los Angeles Lakers on his second team ballot over Franz. Franz didn't make either of his teams. Austin Reeves averaged like 7 points a game. Franz Wagner averaged close to 15. Scored more than double the amount of points per game. More rebounds, more assists, all that kind of stuff. Dave McMenamin covers the Lakers for ESPN, so it's very convenient that he voted a Lakers rookie onto the second team. But, Luke, it makes me mad because a lot of times, these votes, not usually the rookie teams, but in terms of like All-NBA and that kind of stuff, there are incentives built into guys' contracts that if they meet, some of these, benchmarks, that they get more money in their contract. We just saw it with Trae Young. He made like an extra $30 or $40 million in his extension by making the third All-NBA team. But for Dave to throw him in, I refuse to believe that it's like ignorance.
Yeah.
To me, it's just blatant nepotism, him throwing away his vote for the second, both the rookie teams anyways, which to me is ridiculous. It's a privilege to be able to be one of the media members that votes on this kind of stuff, and for you to just like not care about it and just throw a undeserving play on there is ridiculous. And I hope Dave McMenamin never gets to vote for another NBA award, and that goes for everybody. Anybody that doesn't take it seriously, which a lot of them don't. We have way too many people voting on this stuff, by the way, but him for sure should never be able to vote for an NBA award ballot again.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And it's not like he's like a LA like journalist, right? Like in terms of like a local journalist or something like that. Like he covers them like professionally for ESPN. Like this isn't a small outlet. Like if I'm ESPN, I'm mad about this. And they probably won't be because they're casuals too. But like that Mr. McMenamin would really benefit from like doing this the right way, so he doesn't get clowned by people at like, not to bring us down, at our level, like that just like see it and we're like, this is ridiculous. Like even we would know better than to put it. Kobe Price, great example. Kobe put out his ballots. He didn't have Franz won on Rookie of the Year voting, but I'm sure if McMenamin was doing the voting, he would have found a Lakers
McChicken.
rookie, McChicken, McNugget, whatever you want to call him. Like
Little
he would have,
little Dave McNugget, side of barbecue sauce and some French fries. That's what he should be doing instead of voting. Not voting my boy on the
But I think that like Kobe Price did a great job with his voting, being completely transparent, put it out there for everybody to see, like from him, and so that people didn't find out through somewhere else, like how he voted, whatever. So just ridiculous to me that Mr. McMenamin did this, and like it's just ridiculous. Sorry, his last name is genuinely, it's easier to say McMenamin than the other. So like I am trolling, but also I don't feel like doing what Jonathan is doing right now. So McMenamin,
I feel like an anemone. Like exactly. I feel like Nemo right now. Dave McMenamin.
There you go.
Is his name.
Crushed it, but also don't care. Plus ratio. Anyway, but yeah, so it's just ridiculous, man. I don't think we have to really dwell too much more on this. Just the fact that it's stupid. We wanted to bring light to it because it's stupid.
Something else we want to shed light on are patrons. Those of you that help financially support the show. We have 2 new patrons for this episode, Wally Akbar and Eli. Shout out to you guys. Thank you guys so much for helping support the show. It allows us to do awesome things like we did the NBA Draft Lottery Watch Party with the Orlando Magic. That was largely made possible by our patrons. We shout out our brand new patrons on every episode, and we shout out all of our patrons on every episode, and I am going to go ahead and do that right now. Shout out Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Keith Garcia, Zico, Carson Tulo, Nathan Lynn, Ellis, Jonathan Borges, Norm L, Magic Player History, Julio, Bailey, Matt Lyman, Eric Segovia, Gabe Gaines, Bo Outlaw Fan, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Franz Godefasho, Ryan Singh, Blake Bickerstaff, The Distract, your boy Dave J, Eric Randall, Pierre A, Wally Akbar, and Eli. 30 patrons now,
You
Luke.
know, it's almost time, Jonathan, maybe next episode, for you to do the whole one breath thing. I think it's going to get challenging, man.
I think now I'm probably I'm going to meet my match. I don't think I'll be able to do that, but I'll give it a go next time.
You're going to give it a go just for my entertainment.
Perfect. That works for me. All right, on today's show, we are continuing the trend between now and the draft lottery, and with good reason. You know, nobody really knows who the Magic should take at the top of this draft. We put out some polls. Most of the fan base is leaning Jabari, but 80% of the fan base also said they would be good with any of the top 3 at number 1. So we're going to continue really over the next several weeks to continue to get some different perspectives from, bloggers and, analysts and some scouts and stuff like that. People that do this on a regular basis, kind of like talent evaluators and everything like that. Just because I feel like multiple perspectives is going to help, one, form my opinion on who we should take, but I also think it brings a lot of value to you guys as well. So on this episode, we were joined by Aaron Goldstone. He's a writing contributor for the Orlando Pinstriped Post. Just released a scouting report on Paolo Banchero. He's getting ready to drop Chet Holmgren next week, and then I think he said Jabari's is going to be in a couple of weeks, like after the holiday. I think he said. So make sure that you guys go ahead and check that out. But yeah, we're going to switch to the interview with Aaron Goldstone. All right, Orlando Magic fans, we are now joined by Aaron Goldstone, contributing writer for the Orlando Pinstriped Post. Aaron, how are you, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm great, Jonathan. Thanks for having me on. Luke, thanks for having me on. I've been an admirer, a fan of your show from a distance for a while now. You guys do great. You're first class, and I was thrilled that we were able to make this work and get on here and talk Orlando Magic and draft and all that good stuff coming up.
First class. I think Aaron is mistaking us for someone else, but sure, we appreciate the compliment either way. Aaron, we wanted to bring you on specifically. The Magic have now won the number one pick in the NBA draft that's coming up. We wanted to bring you on specifically to talk more about some of these prospects at the top. We just had Keandre from Hoop Intellect on last week, but Magic fans still seem very split and undecided on, the majority of fans. It seems like Jabari Smith Jr. is kind of rising to the top of most people's minds, but a lot of people still seem pretty undecided from minute to minute. So we want to bring you on and talk about some of these prospects. I guess we can start. I know you just wrote a pretty lengthy article on Paolo Banchero. Let's start with Paolo and just kind of your evaluation of him and how you think he fits with the Magic.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, the reason I started my scouting points with Banchero is just I really at this point have no definitive board or order or anything. I just went alphabetical, and so that was kind of an easy way to do it. But I don't envy the decision that Jeff Wellman and John Hammond are going to have to make here, because I don't mean to be politically correct or anything, but I mean, these guys are so even, in my opinion. I think they all have their strengths and their qualities that teams just drool over. I think they all have their warts, and so it's really going to be in the eye of the beholder what the Magic value. With Banchero, he has just such an extensive offensive bag and skill set, of one-on-one moves. But he's got these defensive motor and defensive kind of like lack of interest at times questions. And, so again, that's just kind of, it's going to be what Orlando brass and what their top executives are looking for. My favorite thing about Paolo is his passing and his vision. I wrote in my piece that when I started this process of watching Banchero at Duke, the passing jumped right away, and I was like, I think he might have the best secondary skill out of these top guys. And then as I watched him more, I'm like, no, like his passing is his primary skill. I think that's what he's most elite at. At 6'10", he passes really well off the live dribble. He kind of reminded me a little bit of Kevin Love. He's like an elite outlet passer. Obviously, in the half court, being so tall and so big, he could do like the high-low. He lobbed the ball to the other center in Duke, Mark Williams, quite a bit. And he just has this natural feel to move the ball, especially when he was being double-teamed. And so that's great for a big man to have that kind of, those kind of instincts offensively. You could run offense through him. He could get a team a bucket one-on-one. A lot of people talk about his outside shot not being there. And I think we're all kind of used to now big men being able to shoot. But, I mean, even 5-10 years ago, a 6'10" guy that shot 33% from three was not like a red flag or anything, right? The kid is 19 years old, and I do believe he's got plenty of time to develop that outside shot. He's got solid form and things. So no questions with Paolo offensively. I think he could do, a number of things well at an elite level. Mike Schmitz from ESPN did this piece. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was pretty good. It was like all the top guys in the draft, they're like go-to signature move, and for Banchero it was the spin move, and how he utilizes a spin move in the post with his back to the basket, one-on-one driving to the basket, and then even in transition. So this is a guy with good feet, great size, and a lot of offensive skill. Like I said, the one thing maybe that I'm a little bit concerned about is his defensive want to, and attention on that end sometimes, because he could be a defender. Like, he's a pretty good athlete. He's got great size and strength. So cleaning up that kind of stuff. I really like him. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know if he jumps off the page as like the kind of guy that Weltman and Hammond typically draft and target. I don't know if he fits that mold or archetype or whatever you want to call it. But I think he's great. I think he fits well with the Magic. I think he fits well with maybe some of the other teams at the top of the draft too. I think he's pretty safe. Banchero is a pretty safe pick. But again, it's not up to me. It's going to be what do the Magic value? What are they looking for? They're looking for safe. They're looking for a good player. Or they may be looking for more of a home run swing. I don't know if that's fair, for Banchero to kind of label him as the safe pick, because he's got a lot of upside too. But I think when people think home run swing, they think maybe like Chet Holmgren. So, I really enjoyed scouting Banchero. I think he has a lot of, offensive, especially qualities that, teams will really value. We'll just have to see if that's one of those teams is the Magic.
I think, and my response, Aaron, to that is, so right now I've got Paolo as my number 3 right now, and a lot of it, and I'll kind of, I guess, play devil's advocate to my own perspective as well. But as far as Paolo goes, offensively, you're right. I mean, aside from the 3-point shot that he could absolutely develop, he's great in terms of facilitating, probably better than the numbers show. Despite his assists being just a little bit above like his turnovers per game, I think that like he has the right idea a lot at the time. And when you're playing with these better guys, it really can elevate, that type of player who has the right idea and knows what they need to do. The one thing, like you said, like his on the defensive end, I don't know if he's going to be able to get out there and guard anybody on the wing. He's not exactly a great rim protector. I think he had like 1.1 blocks per 40 minutes. So he's not a guy that's just going to like stand in there and protect the paint by any means. He's 6'10" at the end of the day as well. So I guess my concern is like his offensive, prowess is going to have to far outweigh his defensive, at least at the beginning of his career, until he figures it out defensively. Because it seems like he should have all the tools. But it just like you said, his will to, right? And that was something beginning of the year. Duke propaganda was probably the case, but they were saying his motor is so high. And then we got into the season, and it's like, from what I can see, I'm not going to act like I saw him play every game, but from what I could see, and then from what I've done since into the season, it is kind of like it just seems like he just didn't have the will to on defense. Sometimes there was just times where he lacked. So I do worry a lot about that. But at the end of the day, man, this is an offense league. Like, this isn't the 90s, like the 80s, like where like people could really hang their hat on just defense. Don't get me wrong, there's bigs who hang their hat on just defense now. But at the 4 spot, I don't know, man. I think that there's some leeway to be given there between the two.
And Aaron, I think you can probably speak to this a bit better than Keandre that we had on a few days ago. Is the culture that the Magic are building in Orlando, with the guys that they've drafted and the guys that they've acquired, and now Jamal Mosley. I don't know that really the defense is as big as a concern for me for Paolo, because I do think that is something that can be coached up. And I think this is the group that can get him there. What do you think about that?
No, I completely agree. And then, a lot of times, we all, myself included, anyone that doesn't follow the Duke program closely, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes as far as team roles. Coach K is never going to tell Banchero don't play defense, right? But, there may have been more of an emphasis on certain things that show on film where that was Williams' job to protect the rim or rotate here or there. And, there's a lot of pressure that was placed on Banchero offensively. We don't know exactly what his role was defensively. And so, I guess what I'm trying to say is I agree with you. If you have the athleticism and the body to defend, then coaching, right? Then coaching comes into play. I know motor, when somebody questions a player's motor, that's scary. We just had 4 years of Mo Bamba that had all the talent in the world, and it wasn't a secret that motor was one of the things that people even entering the draft, knocked Mo Bamba on. So, but I don't know if it's a motor thing with Banchero. I think it was just like in his role at Duke, he was very focused offensively, and I do think he can grow. I mean, he's only 19, right? He can grow into becoming an adequate and solid defensive player, and ultimately, a two-way player. So I don't know. I was going to add something here while Luke was talking, and then now I just kind of forgot. So let's keep moving, and maybe I'll let you know if I come to it.
So let's move away from Paolo. I mean, I think we all know that really like the playmaking, the offensive upside is what he brings. Let's talk about a guy that, really a lot of people are very split on in Chet Holmgren, and really the big question mark with him is the frame, not so much the ability. But what do you say to the people that are really getting hung up on that, on the frame of Chet Holmgren rather than what he can do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a legitimate, concern. I went into this process of scouting, these guys, and I try to keep an open mind and trust. Like, look, I do this as, scouting prospects as a hobby. I enjoy it. I did a little bit, when I coached high school basketball, I put, scouting reports together. But there are people that do this for a living and then that have forgotten more basketball than I've ever known. And they really trust, Chet. And so, when a Mike Schmidt or a Sam Vecini or somebody is advocating for Holmgren and saying, look past the body, and how skinny, real thin he is, and just, look at what he can do. I've got to take their word for it. But it's hard sometimes because you see his frame. For me, I cringe sometimes when I see people like make comparisons. Well, Kevin Durant was skinny when he came to the league, or Giannis was skinny, or even one closer to the home, Dwight Howard was skinny. And if you actually go back and look, I mean, these guys were still 25 to 30, maybe 35 pounds heavier, as skinny as they were, than what Chet is right now. And it's not even necessarily about weight. Like, if I could kind of just talk about Dwight Howard for a little bit, when he came in from high school, 2 years younger than Holmgren is to the Magic, even though he was skinny, you could see in his shoulders. That's a lot of times what I look at, and guys, his shoulders look like he could add so much more muscle and weight to his frame. His frame was really impressive, and sometimes Holmgren's posture, in his shoulders, I think is a little worrisome. So he's this world-class elite rim protector, and I recognize that. He's got incredible defensive instincts. But in the NBA, I kind of worry for a little while, at least, how much on the perimeter he's going to have to play just because of not being able to hold ground and getting pushed around a little bit. Incredible off-the-chart numbers, production for a freshman. But, I don't want to crap all over the West Coast Conference, but a lot of those numbers were against, teams that are not the type of skill level he's going to see in the NBA. I did see some film where he struggled a little bit against the Dukes, against some other, high major Power 5 teams. But look, like, this guy, he's incredibly skilled for his size. He's a freak. He's like a unicorn. You're never going to find people with that kind of measurements and those kind of skills. And I think what I wanted to kind of talk about with Holmgren a little bit, I've got his scouting report coming out next week, is, if the Magic, if you told me at the end of the day coming out of the lottery they were going to have a top 3 pick, they're going to get Chet Holmgren, great. Like, that's an incredible talent. But that's not the case. They have the number 1 pick. And so, it's not about what you think about Chet Holmgren. It's how confident are you he's that much better than the other 2 guys. Because they're not just going to sit and let him fall to them. They have to pick him first. And, as much as I appreciate his skill, he definitely, his body and his weight and his strength and just kind of his frame is more of a concern for me than maybe Jabari Smith's ball handling and shot creation, or even Banchero's defense. And that doesn't take anything away from all the amazing thing Holmgren does. I think he probably has a chance to maybe be the best of the 3. I don't think it's unfair to say he might have the best odds to be the worst of the 3. If things don't work out. How much do you believe he can put on weight and strength? How much do you believe that his body will hold up? And And so I don't know. Like it's so enticing, right? It's so salivating to think about Holmgren with all the freakish things he could do on the court at his size, on the perimeter, at the rim defensively, rebounding. But I don't know. Like I don't envy John Hammond and Jeff Wellman. I don't envy them because when you're picking Chet Holmgren, like that's your career, right, and your legacy on the line. You know, it's got to work out. And I I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, is that fair? I'm trying my best to look past my questions about his body, and the talking points on Twitter is he's more than his frame and stuff, and so that's absolutely correct. But then if you push it away too much, you're not trusting your eyes. So you got to find that balance of watching film and also kind of trusting what you see in front of you. I trust Mike Schmidt, so if he's good with Chet Holmgren, has him at number one, he's got to be an incredible prospect. But man, I have my concerns, not doubts. I say concerns is probably a better word.
Right? Yeah, and it's really funny because Luke and I had this conversation earlier today. Like he was like, anybody that has concerns about Chet's like frame, like kick rocks. And I was like, wait a second, like I think it's a legitimate question to have. And then we just kind of went back and forth, and it was one of those scenarios where you're both saying the same thing, but you're arguing anyway. That's like the story of me and Luke. But no, just the eye test. You see this guy, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this guy is the stick bug from Bug's Life in real life. That's what he looks like. He is that slim, that that frail. I'll say that. But the ability to me is what you can't really question, and that's when it comes down to for me. Yes, personally, I am concerned about whether or not this guy is going to be able to play. What we hope is 100 plus games for the next 10 years. But if Mike Schmitz trusts it and John and Jeff think he's the right pick, then I will concede to the people that, like you said, have forgot more basketball than I'll ever know. But it is concerning to me, Luke.
Yeah, and to like cover myself here with Aaron, when Jonathan said that people concerned about the frame can kick rocks, I meant that part, but I meant it for the people that like say that and that's it. Like the only thing that they have to say about Chet is his frame. And it's and that's the whole reason they're out on him, right? Like that's the only reason. They're not giving any type of things like if Mike Schmitz thinks he's good or if the front offices think that he's good. They're just saying themselves they've been out on Chet from day one when they saw a picture of the guy. And so I think that's what irritated me the most about that. I've just seen it so much, Aaron, and I know you have too. Like you look on Twitter every day and that's all that's on my my feed. It's just all this stuff, right? And you've got people that either love Chet or they hate him, and there's no middle ground. And I'm trying to be the middle ground guy. Like Chet does so many incredible things. You think I don't see that he's 195 and 7 feet tall? Like, of course I see that. But what I also see is that he shoots 39% from three on over 3 attempts a game. I had like 4 blocks a game. Like the dude is a freak. I think that when you talk about defensive, concerns about him playing against the Joel Embiids of the world, Nikola Jokic, you just use him as Evan Mobley like the Cavs do, and you bring him over from the help side, and he's just going to send shots into the bleachers all day. But as he talked about, because he has a high IQ, he's going to try to keep those balls in bounds. So I think that with Chet, I would absolutely hate. Like I've said this before, which was I don't know if any of these guys are guys that I fully trust that they come in and they're the best player on a roster and they're going to take your team to the championship. Like these guys aren't LeBron James. I don't think that at all. So my thinking here is that like you just need a piece. And you need a piece to put into this incredibly talented young core, especially if you think that one of the people on the roster is a guy that's going to change the franchise already. If you think Franz is the guy, then great. You just need to add another piece and keep building. I think Chet, man, I think that he has a high floor, but he also could be one of the guys in this draft that does change a franchise. So I don't know, man. I just would hate myself at the end of the day if I passed on Chet Holmgren only for him to be like a franchise-altering player. There's 2 sides to it for sure. I don't know how I'll feel if the Magic pass up on Chet and then we see him during the season and he's averaging like 16 and 10 with 3 blocks a game. I don't know how I'll feel about it.
Yeah, and Jonathan, I wanted to just kind of point out one thing. I believe I saw you tweet out, and I wanted to just commend you because I completely agree with you 100%. A couple of people with the like really kind of like cute photoshopping of Jalen Suggs and Chet Holmgren from high school, and obviously that's a
Yeah.
talking point and that's a great story and everything, but you know
Means nothing.
that's not why you make this pick, and that's a nice backstory or whatever, and I'm sure that would be something that would make Jalen Suggs and Chet Holmgren really happy. But the chemistry, and I can confirm just from being around the team and being at Amway, I mean the chemistry is great anyways, and whoever they draft because of the culture that Weldman and Hammond and company have put together and that coaching staff is going to fit in, really well with the guys that are already in the locker room. And so, you as a fan base, you've rooted for this top pick for how many years, and you've talked about it, and you've clicked on Tankathon and all this stuff. And now that it's here, you want to pick the person that you think is the best player, not the person that you can easily Photoshop, from high school. So it's a little bit too cutesy for me. That doesn't mean that Holmgren isn't the best player. And I think, Luke, kind of what I guess I was trying to say, and I probably stumbled, way too much, was if you took Holmgren as second or third, throw a parade because he's an incredible talent. But because you have to pick first, it just, I don't know why. It kind of gives me those weird, like, goosebump butterflies in the pit of my stomach because it's such a tough call when all three guys are so clearly even to me, and they all have these warts you can point out, they all have these incredible things you can point out. Man, it would be almost so much easier to pick second or third and have somebody pick Paulo or Jabari, and Chet falls to you and you're like, awesome, he's on the Orlando Magic, let's coach him up, let's get him in the weight room, let's do whatever, he's going to be incredible. But the fact that you're going to pick him first of the other two guys, you better be so sure and so confident, and they will, if that's who they think their guy is. It's going to be a really tough call to make.
I think that's one of the things, Aaron, is that this fan base has for the last couple years has wanted that number one pick so badly. And I think we're all realizing collectively, like, the curse that it is. You're not certain. Like, you don't, like, do you really want to be the guy that chooses out of these three guys? Or would you at the end of the day be able to be like, hey, he was the last available of the three, and that's it, right? So I think it's interesting. I want to later propose something here soon, Aaron, to you. Before that, though, tell us a little bit about Jabari, and what you've gathered on Jabari, and where does he kind of stand in your preference?
Yeah, so he is not a prospect when he was in high school coming into his first season at Auburn that I had heard a lot about. And the first few times I watched him, I mean, he exploded. I looked at this guy, I looked at his shooting, his size. He just looked like everything the NBA is right now, with his ability to stretch defenses, play on the perimeter, two-way potential, 6'10". I was all over Jabari right away. And with the Magic struggling so mightily on their roster to find shooting and shooting threats and people to create space for Markelle Fultz or Cole or Wendell or Franz or whoever, Jabari Smith seems to the naked eye like such a flawless, fit to what the Magic already have. And Luke, when you were just talking about just drafting a guy just to go with everybody else that they have, not that the number one pick is just a guy, but to put someone in that can add to the positivity that's already in this roster and take the team to another level. Jabari brings something in his skill set that the Magic, you could certainly argue, need probably more than anything else. I think it's probably not unfair to say that, needing outside scoring is probably more of a need than Chet Holmgren's rim protection, comparing what the Magic already have. That doesn't mean that you take Jabari Smith over Chet Holmgren, though, because you bring those guys into Orlando, you work them out, you kind of get a feel. From what I've heard, I don't think Jabari's going to disappoint, like in interviews. He's extremely professional, and, his dad obviously was in the NBA, and so he kind of understands this process that he's about to go through. And I think he just looks the part to me of what the Magic organization, really just kind of drools and falls in love over. So does Holmgren. So does Chet Holmgren. I mean, obviously they both have length. Chet Holmgren has a lot more length and wingspan. But, Jabari, he offers shooting, of course, scoring, just stretching the defense and putting pressure on defenders, space for other players on the roster, but he's got some legitimate, question marks in his game as well. His ball handling, his handle is way too high. He doesn't have, a tight handle. Now, I don't know how much the ball is going to be in his hands in his NBA career. To me, he kind of profiles as like a secondary or even a third option on a really good team. But I think with his size, he could shoot over smaller defenders. He could shoot in the post. He could shoot open threes on the movement. So obviously that's everyone knows that his number one draw is his shooting profile. But he's not going to be the creator, the offensive creator that Paolo Banchero is. Jabari Smith is not going to be the shot blocker and the rim protector that Chet Holmgren is. He's not going to make plays on the perimeter like Holmgren is going to make off the dribble and stuff like that. He's I don't want to say one trick pony. I want to say he has one really solid NBA skill that's very developed and advanced for his age, and it happens to be a skill the Magic could really use. So that's another interesting conundrum, right? I mean, you want to say as a GM, I don't draft for need, I draft the best player available. Who's to say Jabari Smith's not the best player available and also happens to fill a need that the team desperately needs. If you don't take Smith, you still need to find shooting somewhere else, whether it's a veteran in free agency or later in the draft or whatever. And so, shooting for me is a huge concern on that roster. And you don't know, the immediate futures of Gary Harris or Terrence Ross. And so you're losing even more, outside shooting threats than you already had. And so, to me, that's where the conversation begins with Jabari Smith is his shooting profile and his outside shot and his size and his ability to get his shot off, pretty much whoever's guarding him at the college level, at least he was able to get it off.
So, Aaron, if you are Jeff Weltman and you are on the clock today, who is your pick at number one?
Has anybody called my phone yet to see if I could maybe trade down, or do I have to make this pick?
Well, we can explore that too.
That is the question. So you answer this, and then I have a question that actually pairs with that for sure.
Oh, gosh. So my instinct is to say Banchero, but here's the problem, and I did remember what I couldn't remember earlier in our conversation. If you take Banchero and his number one, draws, his passing and playmaking and offensive initiation, that also means you're running your offense through him and you're taking the ball out of Markelle Fultz's hand. And, I don't know if that changes the dynamic of truly what you're trying to do. How does that affect Markelle's efficiency is not the right productivity on the floor, right? I mean, I think the Magic truly found something, real towards the end of the season when most of the NBA wasn't watching the Orlando Magic. His assist percentage, his playmaking, the offense that he created, Markelle Fultz. In limited minutes, he was just an absolute monster running that offense. And, you're losing a little bit of that if you draft Banchero, if the ball's in his hands, mostly in the half court. How does that affect that dynamic with Markelle Fultz? That's certainly something I would think about. I don't know if it's safe to not draft Banchero because of Markelle Fultz, because of his injury history and stuff, but that's a factor. So I guess I would have to say, I may not make a lot of fans in the Magic fandom community. I think I'd have to say Jabari Smith, to me, just kind of feels like the pick.
That's kind of the opposite. We ran a poll yesterday, and 80% of Magic, 400 something votes, 80% of people said they would be okay with anyone in the top three. Every poll that I've seen, Jabari gets 50 plus percent of the vote, and then followed by 20-30% of Chet, and then somewhere 15 to 20% Paolo. So right now, at least from what I can gather, is Jabari is the leader in the clubhouse for Magic fans. Now, what the hell do we know? But people are really high on Jabari. And like you said, they know that shooting is a dire need of the Magic, and he's going to fill that day one if he's drafted.
I want to first commend Aaron here, because Aaron clearly has not set his mind on who he wants for sure at number one. There is so many people, myself included, Jonathan included, who have said many times already, I want this guy number one. And then a couple days later, we change our mind, right? Now, Jonathan has been on Jabari for the last, I don't know, we're coming up 72 hours, maybe 4 days.
It's like
after?
4 or 5 days, but it was also like 2+ months before the lottery. So
yeah. So, and I'm still bouncing around, right? But I'll still have, moments where maybe I don't say it publicly or like tweet it out or whatever, but I'll send a text to the group chat, to the Six Man Show group chat, and I'll say, guys, it's Jabari, or it's Chet, or it's Paolo. Like, it is such a hard thing. So, Aaron, I think this goes right up there with the people who like what you're able to do, and the restriction you're able to give yourself of like not announcing who your number one pick really is. It goes right up there with the people who say like, I can't speak on this topic because I don't know enough about it. And it's an incredible thing, and I wish a lot of people had this talent, and unfortunately they don't, and myself included. But yeah, I wanted to ask you as well, Aaron, as far as, and what I hinted at, if it came to the point, this is where someone's calling your phone, okay? OKC is calling your phone, and they want the number one pick because they've heard who you want, and they want that guy. In this case, let's say Jabari, and they're willing to give you 2 and 12 for that number one pick. Are you doing that?
I think I think you have to. If the Magic are in love, like blown away with one person, then they're not even answering their phone. If they're answering their phone leading up to draft day, they haven't truly fallen in love with someone. And, that gets back to how we started this conversation on this pod. If there's 3 guys and they're all, maybe even's not the best way to describe them, but they all are on a similar tier. They've got different qualities, different positives, different negatives, but you feel it's kind of equal with all 3, and somebody's willing to give up an asset like that, another lottery pick, to just move up one spot. You're still coming away in that situation. I'm going to assume if Oklahoma City, in your hypothetical, traded up, they'd trade up for Chet. I think, at least from what I think, that's somebody that they also as an organization are very fond of. So you're coming away with another lottery pick and Jabari Smith or Paolo Banchero. So that's an incredible situation. And I don't even know who they would be targeting at 12 or whatever Oklahoma City's other lottery pick is. And I don't know how many more 20-somethings you could cram on this roster anyways. But, if I was running the team and I'm answering that phone call, it's because I'm open to any combination of those guys. That is one thing to maybe consider, though, is I've talked to Jeff Weltman before about this. He definitely thinks there's a critical mass where you can have too many young players, and he's very, very particular about his mix of young players and veterans and that ecosystem in the locker room. And since COVID shut down our media's access to the locker room, we don't necessarily in the last year and a half see the locker room like we used to as intimately. But he's very, very concerned, very aware of that dynamic and how many, rookies or first or second year players is too many, and that's one of the main reasons why he hasn't valued second round picks as much as the Magic fan base would have liked. And that's his, he flips picks and trades for future picks. And it's always because, he wants to bring 1, maybe possibly 2 rookies per class in to not, affect, the progression and the dynamic of the locker room and all the young players already. So I don't know if Oklahoma City offered 1 and 12, if that's something that Jeff Weltman would want to do. If I was running a team, that would be something that I would be interested in, I guess is the best way to answer your question.
I think that, and you make a great point, and what some people may not realize is in terms of, you really step back and look at it, and you start to think of the trend, like, why don't they use those second round picks? And I think that is a great conclusion to come to, is that very particular, despite being like the youngest starting lineup to start the year, he still is particular about how many guys he's got. He's probably a little self-conscious of it because he's like, I've got so many young guys on this roster. And I think that essentially what you'd have to do if you are this front office and you trade for 2 and 12, you're packaging those second round picks and another young guy maybe even on the roster for a veteran on another team. I think that, a notable, like a significant veteran that's actually going to get minutes. I'm not talking about Rolo, who got minutes when people were injured. I'm saying, like, I think that's what you'd have to do. The end of the day, the story is You trade for picks 2 and 12, you're going to probably be shipping off a young guy somewhere to make room for that 12th pick, and you're going to probably be losing those 2 second-round picks for who knows what.
Yeah, I think that's really where I'm at is, I don't want 2 rookies on this team again next year. I definitely don't want 4, rookies. If you trade 1 for 2 and 12 and you still have 32 and 35, like some of these picks are moving around, especially if you make that deal. But me, it's like whoever your guy is, you got the number 1 pick. Let's take the number 1 pick. Put all your eggs in that basket that they're going to be the guy. Like, to me, nobody knows what Jeff Weltman's going to do. Nobody knows what Sam Presti is going to do. And the last time that we traded with Sam Presti, it really didn't go that well, giving up Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. So that's a game of GM chicken that I would rather not play. Just take your guy. Let's celebrate and everybody go home. and it'll be a great old time.
It does seem a little counterintuitive to like have your fan base embrace and celebrate winning the first pick in however many years, right. And then you trade down. It does kind of seem it sends mixed messages.
That shouldn't probably be their concern, but it would damper the parade a little bit.
But
they shouldn't care about that.
If there is something we know this front office loves, it's getting creative with trades and also putting their foot down on that trade and only getting what they would like in return,
right.
And not really flexing at any point to like appease the other organization. So I will say, if there is a trade on draft night, it's one that I'm going to have to trust. Because this front office has done well with trades, and it would just make it that much more interesting for it to be the number 1 pick. I think it would be the 8th number 1 pick ever traded, at least before the season begins.
And I will say, the stories and the sources and the rival team executives that think they know what the Magic are going to do, that... I don't know if I necessarily am like into like leak season or whatever, but it really is still a ways away from the draft. And I think it's just, NBA fans, they crave draft content. The NBA draft is something, especially for fan bases of teams that have not been particularly competitive, is something that fans love to talk about and tweet about and consume. And so these writers, in the national media, they have to fill time, days and weeks with content. And I'm not saying they're straight up lying. That's completely not what I'm saying. But, it's just, we know as followers of this team how tight, leaks are out of that meeting room and that conference room and that front office. And so when you're citing, the Magic like this person today or the Magic like this person tomorrow, I think it's a lot of just kind of beating the drum of excitement in general over the sport and the draft and these prospects. And you have to take it with a grain or maybe 2 grains of salt and just kind of trust that behind the scenes, the Magic are bringing these guys into town. That's incredible. When you have the first pick, you get all the medical records, you get all of the prospects in town. You get the straight shooters in their management and their agents and their managers. You don't get the runaround. You control the draft. It is a hard decision. Maybe I was kind of a fool earlier when I made it seem like I don't envy their position because it is a position of strength. I don't envy their position because if they're wrong, it's part of their legacy, right? And that comes with the territory. I'm sure Jeff will embrace that responsibility. It is what you want to be at the top of the draft because you kind of control everything that happens.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. We've got a little bit less than a month here, but it feels like it's going to be a long month. So, Aaron, thank you for coming on the show. Do you want to let people know? It sounds like you've got another scouting report coming out on Chet, you said, in about a week, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm putting together Chet Holmgren right now, and it'll probably be published next week after the holiday weekend, and then Jabari Smith probably the first week of June. So I write for Orlando Pinstriped Post, that's a SB Nation site, and I'm on Twitter at Aaron Goldstone.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, appreciate your insight. Thanks for coming on the show. Welcome back anytime. And, are you going to be at Amway draft night?
Yes, so I am planning on being at Amway. I've been there the last handful of drafts, and it's an incredible experience to see the fans come to Amway. Obviously, a game is not going on, but the excitement and the energy, and just kind of feeling that. And last year in particular, when the Magic were able to draft Jalen Suggs. It was a great time to see the excitement at Amway with the fan base. Also to kind of be together in a little bit more of a casual setting with some of the other media people and watch the draft and stuff. It's kind of, chaotic to watch and also write at the same time, but it's definitely, an opportunity that I don't want to, pass up. So as long as they'll have me, I will be there. And just in case, I really quickly wanted to kind of shout out, because I bet a lot of your listeners might be familiar with this player. If there's one second round prospect that I really like, and there's a few reasons why I like him, but one of them is because he is from Central Florida. Keon Ellis from Alabama. He went to Leesburg High School, and he's from Eustis, Florida, Central Florida kid. And he is somebody that I don't hear anybody really, mentioning. I think he's one of the better shooters in this class. He's a 6'6" wing. 14 different times this year he had 3 or more steals in a game. 11 times this year he had 3 threes in a game or more. So he offers a lot of shooting, a lot of energy on defense, and he's just like a 6'6" experienced wing that I think has role player written all over him. So if they actually do make one of those picks at 30 or 35, that might be a little bit high for Keon Ellis, but I would love to see him get a look with the Magic as a Central Florida kid.
There you go, Keon Ellis. Look out for him in the second round. But Aaron, man, thank you again so much for joining the show. It was a lot of fun, man. Maybe we'll get you back Summer League sometime before the season. Talk about the draft and recap and talk about some lineups. Awesome. Well, Aaron, again, thanks for joining the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it.
All right, Magic fans, that was our interview with... Not interview. I'll redo this. Sorry, Kevin. Going to redo this. All right, Orlando Magic fans, that was our conversation with Aaron Goldstone. Luke, after that, I still don't know who we should pick. I'm still kind of leaning Jabari, but it's going to, like we said, it's going to be a long 28 days.
It's going to be a long 28 days. Right now, I am firmly between Chet and Jabari. We'll see if Paolo works his way into the conversation, but there's a lot of time for that to happen, so it just might.
We were also, we joined recently the Uncontested podcast. It's an Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, one of our Blue Wire brother or sister podcasts. I feel like it's a bunch of dudes. I feel weird saying sisters. It's our brother cousin podcast with Blue Wire, the Oklahoma City Thunder. But make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. That was a lot of fun. We talked, what would a trade look like between the Magic and OKC if they wanted to trade up to 1. We covered a lot of Paolo, Jabari, Chet stuff as well. So again, that's the Uncontested podcast. It's an Oklahoma City Thunder podcast here on the Blue Wire Network. But for Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You guys have been listening to the Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya. Thanks for listening to the Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and Stitcher to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. Please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It would really help us out a lot. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Sixth Man Show and like us on Facebook. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic.